सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रीगीता ध्यानम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे तुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्रा येन त्वया भारततैल्यपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोतीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरननदी कैवर्तककेशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके सज्जनषट्परैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिन श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैर्गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः।
Hari Om. So we start a very, I would say, important, interesting conclusion kind of a satsang in a manner of speaking. So we'll do a quick revision. So Bhagavan says, Ahankaram ashritya, taking shelter in one's ego. So what we think of as I, the concept of the sense of I, the concept of I, that is the sthula sharira and the sukshma sharira. The sthula sharira is the gross body, this material physical body that we are all very familiar with, comprising of the organs of perception, organs of action, and other organs too, that breathes, that eats, that moves about, and which is mortal, which at some point in time is absolutely inactive, right, without life. That is the sthula sharira. The sukshma sharira is the subtle body, or it is the mind and intellect and the prana, which are the source of life energy for the sthula sharira. That is the sukshma sharira, mind, intellect and prana. This is the ego. When we think of I did it or I am, this is what we always think about. And Bhagavan says, Mad Vyapashrayaha, take refuge in Bhagavan. The Karana Sharira or the causal body, that is the cause or the seed for the Sthula Sharira and the Sukshma Sharira, the gross body and the subtle body. This Karana Sharira is Maya. It is the seed or the cause for everything else. Swami Shivananda, beautifully describes this Karana Sharira as the beginningless ignorance, which is indestructible. And Sri Ramanujacharya also gives a beautiful explanation saying this is the stage in which the consummation of the Atman with the Paramatman is reached. As we come towards the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, this is the simple solution for all spiritual seekers or searchers, as we spoke about last time. Discard the sense of I or the ego and surrender to Bhagavan. See, the God, this Bhagavan, this God, he is the Lord of all, Ishvaraha. And he is not somewhere outside. He dwells in the hearts of all beings. Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshe Tishtati. And abiding in the hearts of all beings, what does this Ishvara do? Brahmayam Sarva Bhutani, spins all beings. Yantra Rudhani, as if mounted on a wheel, on a chakra. Mayaya, by his power. So if there is this Lord within us, the power that rules over everything, us and everything else, and guides all activities, then what should one do? And what would be the result of such a doing? That Bhagavan covers in the next verse.
Tameva sharanam gaccha.
Tameva sharanam gaccha.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tameva sharanam gaccha. Sarva bhavena bharata. Tat prasadat param shantim. Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Gaccha, take. Sharanam, refuge. So what should this individual do? Given that the Lord is within, take refuge. Gaccha sharanam or sharanam gaccha. Where? Tameva, in him alone. Bharata, O Bharata, Bhagavan is saying. Sarva bhavena, with all faculties. Tat, by his. Prasadat, grace. Prapsyasi, you shall attain. Param, absolute. Shantim, peace. Shashvatam, the eternal. So Bhagavan says, as a guidance to this individual, within whom Ishvara exists, take refuge in him alone, with all faculties, O Bharata. By his grace, you shall attain absolute peace and the eternal abode. So Sharanam Gaccha, take refuge. Where one is at ultimate ease is one's refuge. In fact, in the forge, in the army, they say Vishram se. See, in the army, almost everything, every time is absolute alertness. There is not one moment of inalertness. You are alert all the time. Even when you are sitting down, you have to be alert, right? A continuous existence of alertness. And sometimes you have this stand at ease or sit at ease. This at ease, Vishram se, they call it in Hindi. That at ease is refuge, where one is just relaxed. Everything otherwise is absolute attention. So for the spiritual seeker, first know the Supreme. To know the Supreme, you need to be extremely alert. and then realize the supremeness of the Supreme. That also requires tremendous alertness. And then understand that his will, the will of Bhagwan, and subjugate your free will, the individual's will, to his will. All of this requires, it's like a soldier. You know, the life of a spiritual seeker is a soldier's life, right? And thereby surrender. Surrendering one's will to the Supreme will. And in him alone, Tameva. And how does one surrender? Sarva Bhavena, 100%, with all faculties. All of the faculties that come through the Sharira. Whether it is the Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira or Karana Sharira, with all faculties. Surrender 100%, holistically. There is this beautiful saying in Tamil which says, Avan Arulale Avantal Vanangi. Avan Arulale means by his grace. Avantal, at his feet. Vanangi, I surrender. See, humans have goals. We have studied about it in the very beginning of our satsang itself, right? Before we started Bhagavad Gita. These are called Purushartha. Purushartha are human goals. And we have seen that the ultimate human goal or the Parama Purushartha is that of happiness. Deep happiness that touches the core and everlasting happiness. Purna Ananda. That is what the Parama Purushartha is. Now, Purushartha also means human self-effort. So as much as it means goals, it is also self-effort. The means to the end is the end itself. So human self-effort is also Purushartha. So the greatest self-effort of a human being is that of surrender to the Supreme. Tameva. That is the greatest self-effort. Tameva Sharanam Gaccha. And just like any effort leads to success in attainment of whatever goal one is seeking, this ultimate goal of Purna Ananda, that goal is achieved by Tameva Sharanam Gaccha. That Param Shantim. That Param Shantim contains Purna Ananda. And that is attained by submission, by surrender. And when one surrenders, what does one get or one receive? Tat prasadat. That grace, the grace of whatever you surrender to, that grace comes to bless you. And that is how you attain that Param Shantim. See, when we go into a temple, we take a basket of flowers, leaf, fruits, etc. Right? Like Bhagwan said, I don't want anything from you. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Leaf, flower, fruit, and water. Sometimes we put scented water also. That is all Bhagwan seeks, right? He doesn't even seek that actually. Later on, he said, just worship me with your Swadharma. That is what he said later, right? But when we come out, we go in with this basket and we sometimes purchase, actually oftentimes, almost always we purchase this basket from the entrance to the temple. When we come out, what happens to this basket? It becomes prasada. Is this by magic or is this by grace? See, prasad means mental equanimity. And that equanimity leads to an attitude of submission, an attitude of surrender. And that attitude of submission accepts whatever is presented as the grace. When it comes back, actually, even when the flower that I give or the fruit that I give doesn't come back to me, some fruit comes back to me. Maybe something that one of you gave. But that, with that equanimity, which leads to that peace, that aspect of submission, I accept it as the grace or the benevolence of Bhagwan. Tat prasada. That is what tat prasada means. This is nothing but the eternal abode. This is what that param shantim. Because this mental equanimity gives that eternal peace, ever at peace, always, attained by the person who has surrendered. In this world and beyond, later on also. And that is what Bhagwan terms as Sthanam Prapsyasi Shashvatam. Because it is eternal. That abode, that peace. So as much as that basket of fruit, attains sacredness after touching the feet of Bhagwan, the mind of this human being, the mind of the devotee, attains the same sacredness when submitting at the feet of Bhagwan, submitting one's will to the supreme will. See, there is a beautiful example that came to mind, the sailing. Sailing is a beautiful sport. I used to do some sailing when I was in Goa. And I took up sailing with a particular purushartha, a goal, an objective. See, I grew up being scared of water for various reasons. That's a different story. Our satsang will get diverted, or what, go on a tangent. So let's not go there now. But I grew up scared of water. So I wanted my son to be fearless of water, to be an excellent swimmer, fearless of water. And for that, I took up sailing and took him along with me. We used to go. Honestly, I used to feel quite scared. But then that fear used to be overcome by a sense of thrill. It's a beautiful, beautiful sport. Amazing sport. Why the sense of thrill? Because you are out there in the expanse of the ocean, feeling the waves beneath you, around you, the beautiful sea breeze in the middle of the ocean. And that huge expanse, which is equivalent to seeing that majestic tall mountains in the Himalayas, which then makes you feel that you are so close to that Ishvara. It's a fantastic sport. But at the same time, it is also a prudent technique. It's very scientific, by the way. Sailing is a very, very scientific activity, not just a sport. But shipmen, they use the technique of using the constant wind. See, the wind is constant. It may be dull, it may be still, but it is there. So whatever may be the intensity of the wind, sailors who are able to prudently and intelligently use that wind, they can sail their ship in a smooth manner. Even in stormy wind, stormy seas, if you catch the right wind, your ship sails smoothly. For this, you have to submit to the wind. Without submission to the wind, you cannot master that wind. It's impossible. To enable that smooth sailing, that aspect of submitting to the wind is an absolute must. Similarly, the wind of the grace of God is constantly blowing. And devotees who submit to this wind of grace of God, they sail through the waters of the rough samsara of this worldly life in a very smooth manner. And then, like the ship reaches the shore, the human being, the seeker, the devotee who submits to the grace, the wind of grace of God, also reaches the shore, that shore of eternal peace. And what is the other alternative when you're in the middle of the ocean and if you're on the boat? If you don't submit to the wind and sail smoothly, the sailors call it row the rough. You have to row the rough. And rowing the rough it's unbelievably difficult. It's not an easy task at all, especially in the high seas when the ocean is rough. Similarly, rowing the rough in this tough world of samsara is not at ease. And surrender makes it a smooth sail for human beings. And Bhagavan says Bharata. He uses this, addresses Arjuna in this manner. Why? Because a champion archer like Arjuna must take aim with all faculties. It's not just closing one eye and seeing the eye and shooting. No. Any sharp shooter has to aim with every single faculty that is available in the body. Sarva bhavena. That is why he addresses him as Bharata. And Bhagavan says, surrender with sarva bhavena. Surrender also requires all faculties. Additionally, one who has no control over one's faculties, when you can't exercise control over your own sense of taste, sense of touch, the sense organs, whatever it may be, anyone who does not have control over one's own faculties, such a person is thrown up and down, goes through the upheaval of the environment. Like a boat which is, or a twig which is just lost in the ocean, okay, without the sail, a broken sail, no oar, nothing. It gets tossed about in the ocean. Similarly, a person who has no control over faculties, that person gets tossed about in the ocean of samsara. and also by the whims and fancies of the environment that one finds oneself in. But one who gains inner peace, that person is firmly rooted and is unshaken. It's like dropping anchor. When you drop anchor, how much ever there may be turmoil, you are absolutely safe. Such a person revels, rati. Revels means rati. In pure light of knowledge and devotion, bha. So rati bharati. Such a bharati is Bharata. That is another meaning of bharati. So one who revels in this. So the name of our country also originates Bharat. You know, a land which recognizes the culture of liberation through submission. And submission to who? To the Supreme Bhagwan. And whose people revel in this pure white light which emerges from the grace of the Supreme. So reveling in the submission to the Supreme and in the grace of the Supreme. That kind of a culture is Bharat. See, for people who believe, who are believers, this is a fantastic, excellent, valuable direction from Bhagwan. But what about the quote-unquote non-believers? See, there are two types of non-believers. One is an atheist. An atheist is a person who is living a life of delusion, because the person is ignoring the bigger powers. See, in whichever field, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, if you are ignoring the bigger powers that makes things happen without your input or effort, those are the, what is a bigger power? Bigger power is something that makes things happen without any input or effort from us. So ignoring that and living is a life of delusion. So an atheist is obviously living a life of delusion, ignoring the bigger powers, ignoring the holistic aspects of life, and possibly deriving some joy and sensual pleasures which are temporary in nature anyway. I can have this cup of coffee, but how many cups of coffee can I have? That pleasure is only for a period of time. So this kind of a person is, if you see around us, is a very small population in terms of human belief. But a humongously large population is the other form of non-believer, quote unquote. Not an atheist, but a skeptic. And for a skeptic, and the skeptics are there in humongous numbers. For a skeptic, Arjuna is a fantastic role model. Because if you see Bhagavad Gita, what has Arjuna done? Questioning existing belief. That's what he has done. Seeking intellectual clarification. Never hesitating to ask Bhagwan that question. Looking for himself the conviction that comes from questioning and arguing and reasoning out and contemplation. So one who is, you know, one who has the flexibility, one who is flexible enough to be able to question, argue, reason out, contemplate, and then change one's belief system. For that person, this is very useful. But for that, flexibility is required. But where does flexibility, normally when you do not see any flexibility, when you see rigidity, where does rigidity come from? Where does it stem from? Rigidity stems from ego. And for such people who are skeptics, who are rigid because of ego, Bhagavan's words can be interpreted as find something, anything, something higher, something bigger, some higher cause, and surrender to that higher cause. Subjugate one's ego, because subjugating one's ego opens up vistas. That can be, this verse can be treated as that kind of a guidance. The atheist, you know, let's leave the atheist aside. For that atheist prarabdha, whenever the atheist comes around, they'll come around. For the believer, this is beautiful. For the skeptic, Arjuna is a fantastic role model to follow. But have that flexibility to change. When the conscience tells you that, hey, I was wrong, it's good to admit that I was wrong. So Bhagavan now concludes, as well as he gives us the freedom of inquiry. Us meaning the seeker. That we will see in the next verse.
इति ते ज्ञानमाख्यातम्
Iti te jnanamakhyatam
गुह्याद् गुह्यतरम् मया
guhyat guhyataram maya
विमृशैतदशेषेण
vimrishaittadasheshena
यतेच्छसि तथा कुरु
yathechasi tatha kuru.
इति ते ज्ञानमाख्यातम् गुह्याद् गुह्यतरम् मया विमृशैतदशेषेण यतेच्छसि तथा कुरु.
Iti, thus, jnanam, the knowledge, guhyataram, greater secret, guhyat, than all secrets, akhyatam, has been declared, te, to you, maya, by me, vimrishyaihi, reflecting upon, etad, this, asheshena, fully, completely, yatah. So reflecting upon this, yatah, as ichhasi, you wish, tatah, so kuru, you act. So Bhagavan says, thus the knowledge, greater secret than all secrets. This knowledge that Bhagavan is given is the greater secret than all secrets, has been declared to you by me. Reflecting upon this fully, as you wish, so you act. So Bhagavan is saying, act as you choose. Guhyat guhyataram jnanam. See, knowledge is a greater secret than all secrets. That is what Bhagavan is saying. Guhya is a secret. Guhyatara is a greater secret. And Bhagavan classifies knowledge that he is declared. Declared means akhyat, or akhyatam means declared. The knowledge that he has declared, maya, declared by him. To all of us who are listening, to all of us who are reading, to all of us who are sharing, to the teachers who have taught us, our gurus, and of course to Arjuna. So when he uses te, he implies all of these people. And he declares this as a greater secret than all secrets. Guhyat guhyataram jnanam. See, a secret is something that most people do not have access to. And even if they have access, we have seen this earlier by the way, even if they have access to, they do not know. Even if they know, they do not understand. So they don't have access. If they have access, they do not know. If they know, they do not understand. A secret is not, in bold capital, something that should be guarded from others by a privileged few. See, that kind of information, not even knowledge, by the way. Knowledge is give away everything you know and more will come back. One of my favorite statements, in my corporate career was this: give away everything you know. And guess what happens when you give away everything you know? So there are people receiving, hundreds of people. Out of that hundreds of people, tens of people will give back. So you give one, you receive in tens. So give away everything you know and more will come back. So knowledge cannot be guarded. Knowledge is meant to be given away. But information that is guarded, that is shielded, protected, that is not a secret. That is private and confidential. That is what they term it. Like government information, confidential information. See, the spiritual knowledge and the right way of living that Bhagavan has taught us is something that most people do not have access to. That's why it's called Guhya, secret. Why don't they have access to it? Because they choose not to access it. Why do they choose not to access it? Because they are drowned in this material world, in samsara. So busy in the material world, having other things to do which are higher priority, people spend their time on everything else but in getting access, in gaining access to this knowledge. So there is no time to gain access to this knowledge. Obviously, they don't have access to it. Now, even if they have access to it, which means if they are given some time, because it's there, people who have given some time, they do not understand it very well. They do not know it. That is because of either language or misinterpretation. See, most of us don't know Sanskrit. All of this is taught in Sanskrit. So some basic understanding of Sanskrit is required, even basic understanding. And then some good guru who can interpret it in a nice way. Like I was lucky to get a wonderful guru whose knowledge I'm able to share with you guys, right? That kind of, if environment is not there, then even if you have access, you don't know. And those who have the knowledge, they have not understood it in the right manner. For example, there are people who have read this Guhyatara, they have read about it, but they think, oh, secret, I should protect it from others. That is misunderstanding. Bhagavan has never said that. So deny other people that knowledge. Say that I am the sole guardian of this and you are not qualified to get it. That is also having access, knowing about it, but not understanding. So secret is something where you do, access is difficult, knowing is difficult, and understanding is difficult. And spiritual secrets are as much as like secrets of nature, by the way. See, this world of science, has unraveled so many secrets in the last 50, 60, 75, 100 years. So a lot of these unraveling by science has happened only in the last few years. Of course, old, even Vedic scientists knew so much about, nature. But in the modern era, only in the last 75 or 100 years, we are seeing so much of unraveling that is happening in the cycle of, human knowledge, and then losing it and then getting it again, right? So in the modern era, this is when it has happened. When you go back to late 1800s and all, this kind of knowledge was not there. Knowledge about what? About the universe. So as much as the secrets of nature, secrets of the universe are being unraveled, the secrets of spirituality can also be unraveled by those who are willing to do. That Guhyataram Jnanam Bhagavan has declared to us. That is what he's saying. That's what this means. And then he says, Vimrishyaitad aseshena, reflecting upon it fully. Knowledge gained through reading or listening must be assimilated through reflection. If it is not assimilated through reflection, you never get learning with understanding. See, one of my organizations, not one of our vision is to enable children everywhere to learn with understanding. What is this learn with understanding? Learn with understanding is when you know the fundamental concept of what you have read, and when you are able to apply it into real life, whatever the situation may be. If the fundamental concept is not understood and the application is not possible, then one has not learned with understanding. And learning with understanding comes through, we say, practice. Math you can practice, but some of the other things like spirituality, you reflect upon, meditate upon. So either through practice or meditate, that leads to learning with understanding. And Bhagavan says fully. Fully means what? Asheshena, fully, completely. Which means from the beginning, when he started speaking, till now, when he's going to stop speaking shortly. From verse 11 of chapter 2, when Bhagavan said, you are grieving non-stop, Arjuna, for something you should not be grieving about. He scolded Arjuna at that time, by the way. Ashocyan anvashochastvam. You are grieving non-stop for something you should not be grieving about. And then now in verse 66 of chapter 18, we shall cover it today. Bhagavan will say, Ma shuchaha, grieve not. See, initially he scolded Arjuna. Why are you grieving non-stop for something should not be grieved? Today he will assure. The same Bhagavan who scolded in the beginning will give an assurance. And he says, Yathekchasi tatha kuru. Thereafter, after you have known, after you have understood the Guhyatara, after you have reflected upon it, after that, thereafter, act as you please. Do what you choose. So what a punchline by Sri Krishna. See, this is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. No other religion gives this freedom to act as you choose. After giving his finishing touches, after making concluding statements, after giving directions, clear instructions, Sri Krishna says, do what you choose to do. He leaves the choice to us in terms of the type of action we want to take. See, one can train a plant, one can water it, okay, one can groom it, one can trim it, one can cut it, one can ensure that the sunlight that is required is given to it. But can one make it bud? No, you cannot make a plant force or make it bud. Similarly, a human personality cannot be forced to bud spiritual. The spiritual budding happens on its own. In Sanatana Dharma, certain directions are indicated. These are all indicative. Whatever we have seen in Bhagavad Gita are indicative directions. Some instructions, but it is up to us. We can contemplate on it. We can choose to follow it. We may choose not to follow it. We can develop a deeper understanding. Entirely up to us. We can touch and go back to our material life, then come back and touch and go. Most of us do that all the time. See, honestly, one of the reasons I started the satsang was it forces me to dedicate myself to this. Because if I didn't have this commitment, Saturday, like school teachers and students, come early morning, you better get up and brush because the school bus is going to be there at so and so time, right? There's no choice. Assembly prayer is going to be there at so and so time. You have no choice. When you go to an office, yeah, you can wear shorts, come whenever you want to. It's okay. Chalta hai. That doesn't work in the army, though, by the way, right? So, like I said, one of the reasons I said, okay, I'm going to do it. You know what? When you another thing which I did in my life was I just announced, I'm going to, like my brother does now. I did it in the past, run a marathon. He just announces to the world. When you announce to the world, you are commitment bound to live up to it. So it is up to us whether we want to learn, dwell on it, meditate on it, go deep into it, or touch and come back and do what we are doing, whatever we want to do. Bhagavan says, you choose. Religion imposes physical discipline. You have to do this, you must get up, pray at so and so time, do this arti at so and so time, whatever it may be, okay? Religion imposes physical discipline. Spirituality guides inner unfoldment. And ultimate realization comes from inner unfoldment. Hence, that is the reason there is no indoctrination in Sanatana. Now, after telling Arjuna to act as per his free will, act as you choose, though Bhagavan says, after reflecting upon what I have told, then Sri Krishna, now he says, he will repeat his supreme word, the most secret of all. We will see in the next verse.
Sarvaguhyatamam bhuyah
Sarvaguhyatamam bhuyah
Shrinu me paramam vachah
Shrinu me paramam vachah
Ishtosi me dridamiti
Ishtosi me dridamiti
Tato vakshyami te hitam
Tato vakshyami te hitam
Sarvaguhyatamam bhuyah Shrinu me paramam vachah Ishtosi me dridamiti Tato vakshyami te hitam.
Shrinu, here, bhuyah again, me, my, paramam vachaha, paramam, supreme, vachaha, word, guhyatamam, the greatest secret, sarva, of all, the greatest secret of all. Iti, because, asi, you are, dridam, exceedingly, ishtaha, dear, me, to me. Tataha, therefore, vakshyami, I will speak. Hitam, what is good, te, for you. So Bhagavan is saying, hear my supreme word, the greatest secret of all, because you are exceedingly dear to me. So love for Bhagavan towards us, that comes here now. Therefore, I will speak what is good for you. See, we said what is guhya, guhyatara, right? Secret. Secret is something that is hard to get access to. If you have access, hard to know. If you know, hard to understand. So if Guhya is secret and Guhyatara is a greater secret, Guhyatamam is the greatest secret, Uttamam, greatest. Aspects that are valuable yet difficult to understand and abide by. Aspects that are more valuable, more difficult to understand and abide by. And aspects that are most valuable, most difficult to understand and abide by. Normally, most difficult is what is most valuable. See, Guhya is the various paths of spiritual pursuit. All the yogas, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, the various paths, this is Guhya. These are the paths that people take. Guhyatara is the Jnanam, the knowledge. See, not to be confused with Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is a path. Jnanam is the knowledge that one gets after following the path. And Guhyatama is what Bhagavan is going to talk about, the greatest of all. And he says, Bhuya, I will repeat again. And what is he going to repeat? Shrunume paramam vachaha. He is going to repeat his supreme word. Listen, hear my supreme word. Bhagavan has already expounded extensively on bhakti. Now he gives the crux of devotion. See, Bhagavan has told Arjuna, do what you please. Now that you have heard all that I have to say, please assimilate, and then go do what you want to do, is what he has already told him. At the same time, this 2-3 verses bring you back again and again to school. Right? We all have been to school and there are some teachers here also, right? So this is like a teacher going out of the way for her favorite student. See, sometimes the teacher says, get lost. Okay, I have told you what I have to do. Now go, do whatever you want. Just go and do whatever you want. And then after some time, say, come here, come back here. You sit down, let me explain to you. Right? That part of it, Krishna is getting into. Just that little bit, that crucial thing. Now I've taught you everything. Now you go, I don't know how you will perform in the exam. Get out of it. Just get out of my way. And then say, okay, you know what, for the exam, this is what is most crucial. And sometimes, the teacher will have a drop of tear in the eye also. Because explaining to the favorite, explaining to someone she loves, right? To ensure the benefit of that student. So Bhagavan says, for your benefit. Bhagavan tells Arjuna, and through him all of us, all the devotees, that he is repeating to Arjuna because he is exceedingly dear to him. You are exceedingly dear. Ishtosi me dridamiti. You are exceedingly dear to him. And what he is going to say is good for you. Te hitam. It's for your good, for your benefit. That is why I say it to you. Among the most precious of instructions for any devotee in the next 2 verses. So we'll go to verse 65.
Manmana bhava madbhaktaha.
Manmana bhava madbhaktaha.
Madhyaji mam namaskuru.
Madhyaji mam namaskuru.
Mame vaishyasi satyam te.
Mame vaishyasi satyam te.
Pratijane priyosi me.
Pratijane priyosi me.
Manmana bhava madbhaktaha. Madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mame vaishyasi satyam te. Pratijane priyosi me.
Manmana, focusing your mind on me. Bhava, be. Madbhaktaha, my devotee. Madhyaji, worship me. Namaskuru, prostrate, mam, to me. Eshyasi, you shall come. Eva, Eshyasi, mam, to me. Eva, alone. Satyam, truly. Pratijane, I promise. Te, to you. Asi, you are. Priyaha, dear. Me, to me. So Bhagavan is saying, focusing your mind on me, be my devotee, worship me, prostrate to me, you shall come to me alone. Truly, I promise you, for you are dear to me. See, truth and God are the same. Whatever comes from Bhagwan, whatever comes from me, from him, has to be the truth. Just as anything that emanates from the sun has to be sunny. The light and the heat of the sun, they are both indispensable to life on planet Earth. If light and heat were not there, there would not be any life on planet Earth. Even if it was a little bit less or more. Why is there no light in Mars, or why is there no light in Mercury? Even if there were a little bit less or more, it will not be there. So this is the bare truth about the sun and about Earth. Similarly, Bhagavan declares the bare truth about himself and his relationship with the devotee, with the Jivatman, not just devotee, with any Jivatman, with all. So what does that? Manmana, with your mind fixed on me, in me, with me, for me, about me, of me, through me, on me. You know, when I see this, I'm reminded of that Nityananda, me. Some of you would have seen, right? Bhagavan says that in me, on me. The base mind, the fundamental base mind of a human being that drags a human being towards the world away from divine. That is the power of the base mind. So the desires of the materialistic things drags you away from divine towards the materialistic things. The right understanding leads the mind away from the world, Godward, towards Bhagavan. See, however, we also know that Ravana and Kamsa were also had their minds entirely fixed on Bhagavan, Manmana, right? So what is the difference then? See, the mind which has been a den of these base tendencies that erupt from desires. Remember, Arjuna has asked, what is that one thing I should fix? And Bhagavan says, desire, get rid of desire. So a base mind which has kind of been that den, that cave of base tendencies, it is converted into a sanctuary of the divine. And this is like a turning point, it's a sublime turning point in the life of a human being and in the journey of the soul. So not just a physical human being, the journey of the soul also, this is that turning point. And what is the state of mind that Bhagavan is talking about, that is drawn Godward, away from the world material to the spiritual? He says, Bhava Mad Bhaktaha, with devotion. Not that mind filled with Bhagavan like Ravana or Kamsa. The mind filled with Bhagavan like Prahalada or Hanuman. That devotion-oriented mind. Not the despise-oriented mind. See, as devotion to the Supreme increases, the devotee imbues divine qualities. We have read this earlier also, how the individual starts exhibiting divine qualities. See, once while walking along the river Yamuna, a group of gopis, they saw a pair of footprint under a tree. And seeing that, they started imagining that this must be the footprint of Krishna. And they started talking amongst each other. Hey, you know what? Krishna must have come under this tree. Then he must have, sat there and played his flute. After that, he would have felt hungry. He would have, climbed the tree and, or maybe chased peacocks. Then maybe had some fruit from the tree and then played with squirrels up the tree. And then he would have jumped from that branch into the sand. And that is when these footprints have come. See, so all this imaginary visualization of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, all these gopis are talking like this. And talking like this, they get deeper and deeper and deeper into this thought of Sri Krishna, deeply immersed. And as they get deeply immersed in this thought of Sri Krishna, they see each other as Krishna. The way is one gopi sees the other gopi as Krishna in one form. Another gopi sees another gopi in Krishna in another form. That is the depth of this immersion in that Krishna. That you see Krishna everywhere. Actual image of Krishna everywhere, in others also. When one gopi touches the other, she feels as if Krishna is touching her. Like Krishna's touch. See, just like a lover always thinking about one's beloved, the devotee always thinks about Bhagavan. And as the yearning grows, and it grows so strong that the devotee reaches a stage where the devotee cannot be separated from thoughts of God, even for a moment. Again, once Krishna asked Radha, what prayer will you recite, Radhe, when you have some trouble in life, when there is a difficulty in life? And Radha says, none. There is no prayer that I will. Krishna says, what do you mean, none? No prayer? You will not pray? There is a difficulty. So Radha says, Krishna, when you are in my mind all the time, where is the room for sorrow from any difficulty? Or for that matter, where is the room for any prayer? So even it is said that even when Krishna left Vrindavan and went to Mathura, and then even farther away to Dwarka, was Radha unhappy? See, there are versions which portray Radha as unhappy. That's not true at all. Radha was happy with the Krishna that was within her. That was the happiness that she possessed. And when Krishna said, I am going, but I will be with you, I will be in you. Radha said, I understand, Krishna, please go. I will be in you too, wherever you are. That is the power of this devotion. That is the power of this, what? Bhava mad bhaktaha. That engrossment in devotion, completely getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And Bhagavan says, Madhyaji mam namaskuru. When this level of devotion is there, the devotee delights. There is a great joy and pleasure in prostrating before whoever you are devoted to. In this case, Bhagavan. There is tremendous delight. That prostration and worship are the mark of subjugating one's ego, one's sense of individuality. Remember, we started this satsang with that ego, getting rid of that ego. In front of what? The revere. In front of the one you love, the one you revere. In front of that person, dissolve your sense of I. And Bhagavan has given so many assurances to Arjuna and through Arjuna to all of us. As he gets to the closing of his song, he is now making a promise. And the only ask from the devotee to whom the promise is made is that of subjugating the ego. See, when ego is below love, love is there and then ego is below that. Ego is subjugated to that love. Then this individual, the mind, absorbed in that love, is serene. A mind full of love is a serene mind. But a mind full of ego, where ego is higher than the love, any sense of serenity gets washed away by the tsunami of the ego. So it's a beautiful thing, when you put your ego below something else, there is serenity. And that something else is nothing but love. And Bhagavan says Satyam, really, certainly, truthfully, truly. That is what he says. See, all beings are dear to the Lord. He doesn't say, oh, you are dear to me. No, that's what he's saying to Arjuna. But every part of his creation is dear to him. But it is only that mind which is pure through devotion where this love is apparent. Otherwise, the love is there, but it is not apparent. It is hidden. Every Jivatman is linked to Paramatma. And whether any path that we follow, whether the devotee follows an Advaita path, Vishishtadvaita path, Dvaita path, whatever it may be, all of them, they are modes of establishing this link. Satyam, truly establishing it, certainly establishing it. See, a vehicle is used for going from one place to the other place. It is the means to reach the destination. But in the journey of love, the means and the end are the same. Through love, you attain love. And that's what Bhagavan means when he says, Priyosi me, you are dear to me. Through God's love, you attain God. Through his love, you attain Bhagavan. Mam eva ishyasi, you shall come to me alone. Te pratijane, I promise you. See, the first line of this verse may be interpreted as a demand or as a request for love and respect. The second line makes it very clear that it is not. This is Bhagavan's earnest request to someone he loves. It's like a boss, in organizations, when you're there, especially smart people who are very smart and you are the boss. The smart people do what they want to do. Okay, they are smart, they are intelligent, extremely valuable, they are very good, but they just want to do what they think is right. And you are like, see, I understand, you are great, you are really good, but you don't have the holistic picture. Please trust me. I can see beyond this wall that you cannot see. Just trust me. I assure you, you listen to me, there will be success. Oftentimes in an organization, the boss will say that, huh? Please trust me. Just do what I know you are smart. I know what you're saying has tremendous value. Can you just leave that aside and just do blindly what I'm telling you? I promise you there is success. And then there is reward. Why? Because the smart junior cannot see the entire picture. Whereas the boss has vision for the entire picture, that holistic vision. Bhagavan, with his holistic vision, tells Arjuna, please submit, please surrender. See, with high ego, we think we know it all. And of course, yes, we know a lot. But for growth in any field, we need to submit. We must submit. And for the ultimate growth beyond this physical existence, we must submit to that Bhagavan. Manmana bhava madbhaktaha madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosine. Beautiful verse. Thus, bhakti is ultimate. Devotion is ultimate. Guhyatama. Guhya, the path. Guhyatara, the knowledge. Guhyatama, bhakti. Even after jnana, if bhakti is not there, remember I had quoted C. Rajagopalachari, Rajaji, it is useless to himself. Before the Sahasranama, he talks, his talk, if you hear. It is useless. Knowledge without bhakti is useless to himself. After giving thus devotion this high pedestal, now Bhagavan says the next verse.
Sarvadharman parityajya
Sarvadharman parityajya
Mamekam sharanam vraja
Mamekam sharanam vraja
Aham tva sarva papebhyah
Aham tva sarva papebhyah
Mokshayishyami ma shuchah
Mokshayishyami ma suchah
Sarvadharman parityajya Mamekam sharanam vraja Aham tva sarva papebhyah Mokshayishyami ma shuchah.
Parityajya, fully relinquishing. Sarva dharman, all dharma. Vraja, take. Sharanam, refuge. Mam, in me. Ekam, alone. Aham, I. Moksha ishyami, will liberate. Tva, you. Sarva papebhyah, from all sins. Shuchaha, grieve, ma, not. So Bhagavan says, fully relinquishing all dharmas, take refuge in me alone. I will liberate you from all sins, grieve not. Sarva dharman parityajya, fully relinquishing all dharma. So is Bhagavan saying, give up all duties? Is Bhagavan saying, take up adharma? Giving up dharma could be taking up adharma, no? So what is this dharma? Or is Bhagavan saying, don't follow anything else? Because Bhagavan has taught us that everything is ultimately the same. So what is this dharma? See, all embodied beings are also an embodiment of karma. The body must act as long as life flows within. There is no choice. Even if you are not outwardly acting, there is tremendous that is going on within, in this Sukshma Sarira and Sthula Sarira. Base actions, productive actions, whatever it may be. But that karma, which takes the Jivatman towards the Paramatman, is dharma. Anything that takes us in, makes us progress in the spiritual journey, in the spiritual path, that is dharma. See, we have understood this progress in the spiritual path in so many ways as yoga. This karma is yoga, right? Not just karma yoga. Karma yoga, karma yoga takes us towards God through relinquishment of ego. Jnana yoga takes us towards God through understanding of the nature of the Supreme. Bhakti yoga takes us towards God through, entering the Supreme. And when that individual attains this Godhood, you're going towards God all the time. At some point in time, you attain that Godhood, whichever way you follow. Okay? That dharma which helped you get to that stage, it has to be abandoned. That is what Bhagavan means when he says, Sarva dharman parityajya. You have to relinquish that dharma. One has to get down from a vehicle upon reaching the destination. You have to abandon that vehicle. You can't just if you keep sitting in it, you will not reach your destination. Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda has given a wonderful definition of dharma as that because of which a thing is what it is, and without which a thing cannot be what it is. So, for example, fire without heat is not fire. Fire can be fire only with heat. You can't, have you seen cold fire? So the heat is the dharma of fire. In a similar vein, human beings are what we are because of our body, mind and intellect. The Sukshma Sharira, Sthula Sharira. And within human beings, we have this variety of personalities because of our guna, the nature. So we can say that the body, mind, intellect and guna are the dharma of the human being. See, there is also another statement, controversial, I'm not getting in there, where we say the self, which is, the Paramatman is there in every self. That is the dharma of the human being. I don't want to get there because that's a controversial statement. Then do you abandon that Paramatma? No, I don't, let's not go there. This body, mind and intellect and the nature, the guna, parityajya, fully relinquishing it. See, Bhagavan has clearly taught us what tyaga is. He's talking about tyajya. Tyajya comes from tyaga. He has taught us what sattvika tyaga is. Renouncing attachment and also fruits. We have read this in detail. Okay? Giving up the lower to attain the higher. Climbing a ladder, it is not possible, or it happens only when the first step is climbed and then you put the second step and then the third step. You can't jump straight into the top. There is tremendous risk of falling down, right? So you go step by step, ek step. So after having completed duties, dedicating them to Bhagavan, relinquish them all dharma. This is what it means. And then Bhagavan says, Mamekam, relinquishing all dharma, Mamekam sharanam raja. Take refuge in me alone. Surrender unto me. Lose yourself in me. Have my sharan, or which means the feet, as your ultimate goal. This is sharanagati. See, once when Socrates, I have some, I'll take 5 more minutes maximum, maybe 7. When Socrates was contemplating on the banks of a river, okay, a young man kind of just wandering around and casually asks Socrates, recognizes him and he says, Master, and he says, oh, this is Socrates. And he says, Master, can you please give me knowledge? So Socrates says, do you really want it? You don't seem like you are generally casually walking around. Just you happen to see me, you are also casually asking. So that's what, and he says, do you really want it? How much do you want knowledge? And the young man says, I want, that's what I want, nothing else. So Socrates says, okay, come with me. He takes the man to the river and he catches him by the neck and shoves his head into the water. Sarika's knowing smile, she has heard it before. See, some of these stories, you can't repeat them n number of times, because they make so much sense in context. So he just puts him into the water. And then after some time takes him out and says, what do you want? And the young individual says, I would like knowledge. Socrates puts his head again into the water and keeps it there for some more time. Man is struggling. And then takes him out again. What do you want? The man tries to push Socrates away, but Socrates, we all know, is a strong person. He says, I want knowledge. And Socrates pushes him down again into the water, the head, and he keeps him there. Okay, and he's struggling. You know what happens when you are drowning, right? You're struggling. But Socrates holds him there. This time he doesn't bring him out. But after some time, Socrates is so strong, and it was very obvious, much stronger than that young man. But that person just comes out, breaks through, pushes Socrates away. Socrates is almost losing his balance. At that moment, Socrates asks him, "Hey, what do you want?" And he says, "I want air. I need oxygen." Socrates says, when you seek knowledge the way you sought air, that time you will get it. So that self-surrender, that level of depth of absorption, where the gopis saw Krishna in the other gopi also, that depth, where where you're struggling to breathe and you say, well, knowledge, that individual didn't even have knowledge in his mind. All he wanted was air. Knowledge was forgotten. Everything you forget in that one, which you seek so devoted, that depth of devotion, that self-surrender it's not the inability to perform one duty. It is like a stream that joins a rivulet that meets a river that merges into an ocean. It is a natural progression. Surrender in itself is self-fulfillment. When a stream gets into a river, or a rivulet, or a rivulet into a river, or a river into an ocean, it's fulfillment. The will of the Jivatman is subordinated to the will of the Paramatma. See, one of the biggest human fears is having one's will subjugated. It's imprisonment. Free will, that's freedom. Subjugation is imprisonment. And another of human fear is incurring sin because of what we do. If I do this, I'll get sin, so let me not. These are two biggest fears of human beings. Because I do karma, I will get papa. Or even if I do dharma, I will get papa. See, Arjuna knows very well that it is his duty to fight this righteous war. That is his dharma. But he is worried about getting sin. We saw in chapter 1. So Bhagavan now gives his biggest assurance. Aham tva sarva papebhyaha moksha ishyami. So I will liberate you from all sins. Bhagavan takes the responsibility on himself, upon himself. If you think that you will incur sin by performing your duty, do not worry. Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda puts it beautifully. He says, that which brings about agitation in the bosom and thereby causes dissipation of energy is called sin. And Bhagavan assures that there would be no sin. Ma shuchaha, do not be anxious, do not grieve. Do not leave this Ashrupurna Kulekshanam. Remember, what is this? Your eyes, it's like a river flowing through from your eyes. You're crying, there's no control over the tears. That was the state of Arjuna. There's no control over his tears. Ashrupurna Kulekshanam. Leave it. Do not grieve. Moksha ishyami. I shall liberate you. Thus, Bhagavan offers to Arjuna and to all of us his consolation and his assurance. And he assumes responsibility for ensuring our liberation. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. So that's it. With that we come to the, actually, you know what, with this we come to the conclusion of the yoga. See, every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called yoga. With this verse, we come to the conclusion of the yoga aspect of the spiritual teachings of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Now, Bhagavan touches upon the competency for following the Gita. See, it's very important. If you are a doctor, you need to have an MBBS. Without an MBBS, if you're going to practice, you're a quack. Right? So, what is the competency for following the Gita? That is what Bhagavan will cover now. We shall see that in the next satsang. Thank you. Hari Om.
We'll repeat today's verses. Chapter 18, 62 to 66. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam iti te jnanamakyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimarshitadasheshena yatechasi tata kuru सर्वगुह्यतमं भूयः शृणु मे परमं वचः इष्टोऽसि मे दृढमिति ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम् मन्मना भव मद्भक्तः मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मामे वश्यसि सत्यं ते प्रतिजाने प्रियोऽसि मे मन्मना भव मद्भक्तः मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मामे वश्यसि सत्यं ते प्रतिजाने प्रियोऽसि मे मन्मना भव मद्भक्तः मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मामे वश्यसि सत्यं ते प्रतिजाने प्रियोऽसि मे सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ
Hari Om. Shri Krishna. Thank you. Any thoughts, comments, or question?
I have a question, and this is for the last verse that was read out. So there was a statement, if you take refuge in me alone, and I'll liberate you from all sins. First, I want to know what exactly are these sins. Second thing is, if all the sins, I mean, if this person is liberated from all the sins, what will happen to prarabdha karma and sanchita karma? And any sin is liberated, or what is that?
Sorry, what is the last? What's the last? Any
kind of sin. I mean, how can that be possible?
So that's why I quoted Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda, right? And I'll quote him again. Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda says, and I quote, that which brings about agitations in the bosom and thereby causes dissipation of energy is called sin. See, we have said this, we have read this earlier also. Sin is nothing but a disturbed mind. And how does disturbance come into the mind? Disturbance comes into the mind from the Shadripu, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, right? So when these impurities are there in the mind is disturbed. And when the mind is disturbed, that is sin. And a disturbed mind, when the body is gone, the Stula Sharira is gone, and the Sukshma Sharira follows soon after. And then it goes into another Karana Sharira. It takes the disturbance with it. That is what we normally understand as Papa. You will gain sin. Papa is not something to do with some other world or something else. That Papa is our own disturbed mind. That is Papa. So Bhagavan says that this is what he is saying. So this is the answer to your question. Right? That this is the disturbance which he says will go away. Because why? The peace has come. When the peace has come, where is the disturbance?
So,
and how does the peace come? The peace comes through this guhyatama, that ultimate bhakti.
so if there are any actions that are followed because of these disturbances, what happens to that?
If actions are there which are happening because of this, those actions may not be. So your next part of the question was what happens to the karma, right? So actions do lead to karma. Sanchita agami leads to prarabdha, right? Future, what you inherit in future. So like I said, the sin, the quote unquote disturbed mind, becomes the prarabdha of the next life that the mind goes into. So when you take action with a disturbed mind, if you are living in this world right now, that action will not be a pure action. There will be some disturbance in the action itself. Either it will not give rise to a proper result, or it will be a very disturbed action which causes a lot of disturbance in the environment. The action itself will cause disturbance within you and outside of you. And if you are taking it with you for the next janma, it will come back as a prarabdha in the next janma. So that is why Bhagavan says, the path that he has shown us is a path to get rid of all these disturbances. Moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. So I assure you, I promise you, I will give you that liberation from the sins. He doesn't like give it, meaning he doesn't come and inject it into you or put it in a platter and give you. He makes you get it by change of attitude. So when we have that flexibility, so we can be a skeptic. See, the atheist, let's not even waste time on the atheist, okay? Atheist, whenever the prarabdha gets exhausted, the atheist may become a skeptic or a theist, believer, okay? But a skeptic, arguing, questioning, like Arjuna did, right? Arjuna was pretty skeptical in a lot of instances. He just didn't take Bhagavan's word for it. But Arjuna also has the flexibility to change, to adapt, to change one's own firm belief, which was pretty firm earlier. When you are a skeptic, but when you are willing to listen with the conviction or with the willingness to change, then you can progress, which is true in life, right? In our day-to-day life, when we don't know something, but when we seek to learn and when we adapt what we didn't know and change our attitude, is when we grow, which is what is true in spiritual path also.
Okay, got it.
And the biggest learning or the biggest teaching of Bhagavan is submit, surrender your ego. Surrender this sense of I. When you surrender that sense of I, the disturbances come from the ego. When the ego itself is not there, where is the disturbance? And what is the best place to surrender your ego? The Supreme. See, prayer, I used to tell, I told my kids also this, prayer. Why pray? I don't like praying. That's a very common thing nowadays, right? See, prayer, first of all, gives focus. Because when you are praying, you're concentrating on the aspect of prayer. So now Bhagavan, we are talking about submitting to Bhagavan, surrendering to Bhagavan. When you are praying to Bhagavan, you are focusing on Bhagavan. Focus gives concentration. And when you come back into the worldly life, that concentration stays with you. That is one thing. Of course, in this journey of ultimate spiritual transition, there is no material. You completely focus on Bhagavan, like the gopis. They see Bhagavan in the world. They see Bhagavan in each other, right? That is the ultimate. But even for people like us, you pray because it gives you that focus, number one. Number two, it removes disturbances. So when you are disturbed, you will not be able to, your performance level comes down. So when the disturbance is removed, the performance level goes up. And finally, prayer removes this ego. It helps you bow down to who you consider more superior. When you bow down is when you completely let go of this sense of I. And when that sense of I is gone, when the ego is not there, where is the question of, any other disturbance? And the best place is to let go of the ego is that Sharanam Vraja. Any other thought, comment, or question? Yes, the last lines, they are serene. Who has written that? Last lines by Sarika. Where? Oh, chat. Yeah, thank you, Diksha. Yeah, last lines by Sarika were serene. Yeah, absolutely. With the love of God, we attain God. With love, so love is the vehicle, and the means and the destination are the same. In everything else, the means is different from the destination. Is my mother going to say something? You have to unmute if you're saying something.
No, enjoyed the class. Thank you.
Okay, if nothing else, then thank you all. Hari Om. We'll meet. Now we are closing, Bhagavad. I think probably two more satsang. Yeah. But the core teaching of Bhagavan is with this satsang, it is over. Thank you all. Hari Om. We'll meet next Saturday.